My husband complains that I am the family ATM, always bankrolling my little brother and little sister. What he doesn't know is this: my little brother is actually the son I had, at 19. My second brother is the son I had at 25. And my little sister is the daughter I had at 28. My husband makes around 700 grand a year. He's 8 years older than me. When I met him, I was still in college. We got together fast. Back then, he gave me $700 a month, and I thought it was a fortune, because my parents didn't give me a dime for living expenses in college. If even my own parents weren't going to support me, who else was? But he did. I told myself it meant he really loved me. So I was loyal, all in. Even though I always felt weird about it, like he was from a different generation, too much older to bring around my friends. But hey, he loved me, right? That belief didn't last long. One time he got drunk, and I looked through his phone. He had tons of women saved, and he'd send them money late at night. The messages were brutally simple. Usually just, "You free." Then an address. It was obvious he was paying escorts. I wanted to break up on the spot. I was terrified of catching something. But he was careful, in his own disgusting way. Every time he was with me, he used protection, and he made me get tested. In his chats with other women, I even saw screenshots of test results. Then I found a group chat with his buddies. This was how he described me: she's a college girl. Young, clean, and cheap. I give her like $700 a month, and she's good. I pay escorts more than that for one night. So that's what I was to him. He even encouraged his friends to keep a college girlfriend, too. And suddenly, I didn't want to break up anymore. Because when I opened his banking app, the balance was about 2.6 million. I counted the digits 3 times. I wouldn't have dared to dream that big. I stayed with him. I started telling him my parents were sick and needed money. He'd wire over a few thousand here, 10,000 there, like it was nothing. But he still refused to raise my allowance by much. Then, luck stepped in. He got into a car accident. A bad one. The doctor said the injury was below the belt. He might not be able to perform anymore, and he definitely wouldn't be able to have kids. The doctor said it in his hospital room. I overheard it from the hallway. I took care of him at the hospital, and played my role perfectly, a simple, Nasativ girl from the countryside, pure as fresh laundry, with nothing but devotion in her eyes. He was deeply moved. He started giving me $3 grand a month, as spending money. Still stingy. The moment he got discharged, he rushed to propose. He said he wanted to be child-free and asked if I could accept that. I looked at him with wide, starry eyes, and nodded like it was the easiest promise in the world. So we got married. He was really feeling sentimental. We had a huge wedding, and he gave me a 6-figure wedding gift to start our marriage, money that went straight into my own account. My parents tried to get their hands on it. Not a chance. Back when I was a sophomore, I'd met a gorgeous underclassman. We hooked up. I got pregnant. It just so happened my husband was sent overseas for a year. I didn't show much, so while he was gone, I went back to my hometown and gave birth to my first son. With some money and paperwork, my parents were the ones listed as his guardians, and address. My parents had a new son, they were so happy. I even shared the good news with my husband. He congratulated me and sent a generous, nice-to-meet-you gift. From that day on, I became the sister who spoils her little brother. I bought a small condo near campus, and put it in my little brother's name. By the time my husband found out, the deal was already done. He gave me a card with 300 grand on it. I added a little more of my own, and I used all of it to buy my little brother a better place. My husband finally snapped. "He's your brother, do you really have to spend that much on your parents' side of the family?" I snapped right back. "My brother is my safety net. He's my backbone. If you ever bully me, he'll be the one who has my back. We don't have a son, so what's wrong with me treating my brother well? If we're good to him, he'll be closer to us than he is to my parents. My parents are old, how are they supposed to raise a boy? Of course it's on me, his sister. I agreed to be child-free for you, what more do you want from me? I am nice to my brother, because he's adorable, because I want to feel what family love is like." The "we don't have a son" part clearly hit a nerve. In the end, he didn't say another word. My parents moved near my campus with my little brother. I went to class, and afterward I'd go spend time with him. Later, when my husband came back from a business trip, my parents brought my little brother and moved into my husband's house. It was a big place, so space wasn't an issue. The only downside was the drive, over 20 minutes from campus, which was annoying. But there was an upside too. Over time, my husband started getting attached to my little brother. When I spent small amounts on him, my husband didn't complain at all, he even started buying gifts for him himself. As for that gorgeous underclassman, his family had money and influence. I played him, and I didn't dare stay in contact after that. So I cut him off completely. My husband thinks I am the family ATM, always bankrolling my little brother, because I poured time and energy into him, and used my husband's money to get him registered in a top public school district, buy him another place, and even open an account in his name with money parked inside. My husband mostly looks the other way now. He's not as confident as he used to be. Because he's not really functioning anymore. He used to last 3 minutes. Now he can barely get himself together, and when he does, it's over in under a minute. Meanwhile, I am still young and pretty. Sometimes I get irritated, because what exactly is he good for now? Other than drooling all over me. Maybe out of guilt, he stopped objecting to my helping my brother. As I got older, my needs got stronger. And my husband couldn't meet them. But my needs also bruised his ego. So he applied for another overseas assignment, acting like he wasn't worried I'd cheat. I'd built the perfect image, plain, modest, traditional, always cursing out cheaters online, to prove my morals were rock solid. After I finished grad school, I got a job. And at work, I met someone who completely knocked the air out of me. Tall, handsome, confident. None of that shy college boy awkwardness, and none of my husband's older man fatigue. He was 28, at his peak, Ivy League. The kind of age where men think they can run the world. He worked in investment banking. We got together. Then I accidentally got pregnant again. I swear, I must be ridiculously fertile. We carried on for a while, but when I was 7 months along and it started to show, I disappeared. I went back to my hometown to give birth, and again, I had the baby registered under my parents' address and paperwork. By the time my husband came back, my second brother was already 6 months old. Ever since I bought my first brother that place, my husband stopped handing me big lump sums, but he still gave me a few thousand every month for household spending. I sold off the designer bags, jewelry, and shoes he'd given me, added the cash I'd saved, and even ran up my credit cards and pulled out some cash advances, then bought my second brother a condo too. A frugal country woman like me doesn't need luxury goods. Give me meat, vegetables, and a warm bed and I am fine. What would I do with thousands in spending money? As for the live-in housekeeper, I fired her. My mom could handle cleaning. She ruined a few of my husband's shirts in the wash at first, but she learned. My husband tried talking to me a few times. We were child-free, and he made great money, so there was no point living like we were broke. I'd listen, nod, and keep doing whatever I wanted. He found it baffling, but he chalked it up to my limited upbringing. The more small-minded I looked, the more tacky and family-obsessed and easy to exploit I seemed, the more convinced he became that I was obedient and would never betray him. So he felt safe. Meanwhile, he kept getting worse in bed. Some months, nothing at all. And the one time it happened, it was 3 seconds, a total waste of shower water. One day, my husband stared at my 2 brothers with open envy and said, "Your parents are impressive." They had 2 boys at their age. I was somewhat proud, even though I wasn't sure what I was proud of. I had 2 babies, after all. I was basically doing the world a favor. If I didn't have brothers, who would I even spend your money on? You don't want kids. I sounded almost sad. He hurried to reassure me. If you like kids, take care of your brothers. I'll treat them like my own. My first brother was especially close to us. He was already in elementary school, and I trained him to be sweet and well-behaved. He handed us peeled tangerine slices and said to my husband, "Thanks, brother-in-law, for paying my tuition and living expenses. When I grow up and make money like you, I'll buy you a huge house and a private jet." He went to an expensive bilingual school. His French was basically native level. He was also doing all the elite kid activities, golf, riding lessons, that kind of thing. It cost well over $100,000 a year, and my husband paid for all of it. He behaved himself, acted caring, and made it easy for my husband to keep spending. My second brother, now 2, toddled over 2, and threw himself into my husband's arms. In a baby voice he said, "Brother-in-law, you work so hard. Are you tired?" Then he started patting my husband's shoulders like a tiny masseuse. The older one joined in. They worked together until my husband was grinning like an idiot. He laughed, hugged them both, and told me, "Your brothers are really thoughtful." I smiled too. When you teach them what to say and how to flatter adults every day, even a kid would learn eventually. Still, I had to admit, my two boys were genuinely smart. High emotional intelligence, and actual brains too. I remembered how slow I'd been as a kid, how I'd forget things the second I learned them. But my boys soaked everything up. And they were calm, steady, emotionally regulated. I didn't have to force that. When they ran into problems, they didn't panic or throw tantrums like I did. They thought. Thinking was something I only learned in college, watching classmates plan their futures, and even then, I wasn't great at it. I chose good genes. They were also beautiful. Even if they ended up average, they could still get by on looks alone. My best friend. She was the real trophy wife. Me, I was more like a mouse, stealing from my own house, one careful bite at a time. Still, having two kids in the house brought laughter. And it even made my husband start getting ideas again. Then I caught my husband seeking treatment for his infertility. He was running around to clinics. He was also still cheating. I saw him telling his friends he was sick of me, that I was the reason he couldn't get it up anymore. One friend joked that he should share me so they could try me out too, see what I tasted like. My husband told him to get lost. But one of his friends really did want to sleep with me. I slipped a tiny recorder into the lining of my husband's jacket. He was the meal ticket for my whole family, how could I not watch him closely? The friend who wanted me was another rich kid, and he brought it up more than once. My husband refused. Who volunteers to be humiliated? Especially when it would make him look like a joke. But here is the thing, my husband kept a mistress anyway, and he even had her doing IVF. His sperm count was terrible, and after that accident, he realistically couldn't get anyone pregnant. But he still tried. And on my side, I met another man I couldn't stop thinking about. The new guy showed up as our company's overseas liaison, an expat rep we partnered with. He was mixed, the kind of face that didn't belong to any one place, sharp, but something deep and quiet in his eyes that felt almost tender. His name was David. Being with David felt different from every other man I'd known. The men I'd dealt with before all carried the same vibe, they were the center of the universe, and women were accessories. David treated me like a person. When we were together, his attention stayed on me, he wasn't scrolling his phone, wasn't performing for his own ego. For once, I felt seen. Respected. So yes, I got involved with David too. I always cheated during work hours. After work, my time belonged to my two boys. I might not have the skills to turn them into little geniuses, but I could at least be there, talk to them, watch them, love them. If they could stand on my shoulders and end up freer and happier than I ever was, that would be enough. And then, again, I got pregnant. David was leaving this country soon. He asked me to go with him. He even said if I couldn't leave my family behind, I could bring them. I was wildly tempted. He told me that if I moved, I could go back to school. I'd confessed to him that growing up, I never had money for lessons or hobbies, and it wasn't until college that I realized I loved drawing. David said there were galleries everywhere where he lived, that I could even travel around Europe to see exhibitions, and that he'd go with me. It felt like David truly loved me. With everyone before, my gorgeous underclassman, the ambitious finance guy, my husband, they all liked me best, when my head was empty, and my whole world revolved around them. They didn't care what I wanted. Once, I said I wanted to try becoming a content creator. My husband shut it down instantly, saying it would embarrass him to have his wife showing her face online. I've regretted that ever since. If I'd done it, I might have been making my own money by now. But I didn't dare gamble, because I was scared he'd cut off the household funds. I wanted to be with David. But I was terrified of the risk. If David and I fell apart, who would pay my family's massive expenses? And my parents definitely wouldn't want to go, I couldn't handle the kids alone. In short, David and I probably had no real future. I hadn't even asked if he'd be willing to bankroll my two brothers long term. Romance feels easy. Real life is where you find out what someone actually will and won't do. While I was stuck in that spiral of fear and desire, my husband dropped a bomb. He wanted a divorce, because his mistress was pregnant. He looked at me with joy practically bursting out of him. He was so excited, he almost couldn't sit still. "Honey, I am really sorry, but she's pregnant. I can't help it. Don't worry, I'll make it up to you," I almost screamed. But I forced myself to breathe, because losing control wouldn't help me. I went quiet and heartbroken instead. I thought you wanted a child-free marriage, I said. He rubbed his nose awkwardly. It was an accident. We can't just get rid of it. It's a life, honey. We have to be good people. I stumbled back like he'd slapped me. You promised me you didn't want kids. If you changed your mind, I could have had one. Why go outside our marriage? Guilt flickered across his face for half a second. I already knew the truth. He and the mistress had done IVF in some shady clinic. Please. The only question was whether that baby was actually his, or whether she'd played him too. He ran out of patience. Do you have any idea how much money I've spent on your family all these years? And you still want more? Your two brothers demand the best of everything. I work myself to the bone, and it all goes to people who aren't even mine. How am I supposed to feel? I stared at him. We're family. And you are calling us outsiders? He probably realized he'd gone too far, because he softened his tone. Either way, I am keeping the baby. End of discussion. I swallowed and asked carefully, if you bring the baby home and we raise it here, I'll treat that child like my own. Would that work? He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. You'd agree to that? You wouldn't rather leave, and find a man, and have your own child? I shook my head, wearing my saddest, most hopeless expression. I love you. If it's not a child I am having with you, then I'd rather stay child-free, and honestly, I don't really want to go through pregnancy in the first place. But if you bring the baby home and we raise it here, it's basically the same as us having a child together. He thought about it. He must have pictured the virtuous, obedient wife I performed for years, because he finally nodded. He brought the mistress into our house. And my entire family waited on her, like she was royalty. She was loud, entitled, cruel. I swallowed it all, and stepped back, until she insulted my two brothers. Then I'd slap her, and yank her hair, no hesitation. She'd run to my husband to complain. He'd scold me a little, but then he'd hand over even more money, because he believed I was the one being wronged. Late in her pregnancy, he took her to another city to give birth. Technically, he didn't have to go. But he'd wanted a child for so long that he couldn't bear to miss it, so he went anyway. The timing was convenient, because I was also over 7 months pregnant. Once they left, I took my whole family back to my hometown to prepare for delivery. David had already returned to his country, but we still messaged each other online, talking about how much we missed each other. After 9 months, I gave birth to a baby girl. And that girl became my little sister. My mom was 55, claiming the baby as hers would have been ridiculous. So we told people she was adopted. When the baby was a month old, we brought her home. Looking at all 3 kids, I felt this strange, intoxicating satisfaction. In a child-free husband's house, I'd secretly had 3 children that weren't his. And each child had a different father. The kind of thing people usually joke only men can get away with. I'd actually pulled it off. I loved my kids. Fiercely. That's the instinct, I guess. But fear came with it. I didn't have real earning power. I couldn't guarantee their future, couldn't be the safety net they'd need. And the money I had wasn't enough to set my little sister up the way I had my 2 brothers. So I told David I'd had his daughter, and asked him for money. David didn't hesitate. He sent it. I bought my daughter a nice apartment. For some reason, the first thing I always did was buy property. It made me feel like I had something solid under my feet. I didn't even spend all the money he sent, so I deposited the rest into the baby's account. That steadied me a little. But I still worried about the future, especially with my husband suddenly producing a so-called illegitimate child of his own. 2 weeks later, my husband came back. Alone. I blinked. Here is the baby. He hadn't responded to any of my messages. I'd assumed once he had a child, he didn't care about me anymore, and honestly, I didn't mind. He looked wrecked, hollow-eyed, exhausted. The baby isn't mine, he said, voice dead. That woman lied to me. I made a soft sound, surprised on the outside, delighted on the inside. I asked, if you want kids that badly, should we have one? I don't want to give birth, but, maybe. Or you could find another woman to do it for you. Because I truly don't want children. He shook his head. I am child-free. I am not having kids. I nodded, like that settled everything. Then he finally noticed the baby. Did your mom have another one? He asked, eyes wide. I said calmly, no, she didn't. When we were back home, we found her. My parents said the boys are older now and they have nothing to do, so they might as well raise a little one. My husband stared, envy practically bulging out of his face. He muttered, "How is it so easy for other people to have babies?" My husband was probably truly out of hope now. He sat me down and said, "What if we officially adopt one of your brothers and your sister, make them our kids? I mean, I've got all this property and no heir. It just feels like I am getting cheated." I put on a reluctant face. "Isn't that weird? Wouldn't it mess up the family roles?" He said, "Come on. We've basically raised all three of them. Your parents are getting old, how are they supposed to be the parents of little kids? Half the time, when we're out, people already assume they're ours." The more he talked, the more excited he got, like he just solved a brilliant problem. "And look," he added, "your three siblings look like you. They're adorable. Having kids this cute would make this whole life worth it." On that point, I agreed. The greatest thing I've ever done in my life is have these three kids. I am painfully average. For someone like me, creating life is the only great project that makes me feel proud and genuinely happy. Everything else is just noise. My husband decided if we were doing this, we should do it big. He went straight to my parents and proposed adopting all three kids as his legal children. My mom's eyes nearly popped out. "Are you insane? They're supposed to call you brother-in-law." My dad slammed in too. "This is ridiculous. They're Nina's little brother and sister. How can they call Nina, Mom?" My mom kept going, rolling her eyes so hard, they almost fell out. "The oldest is already in school. He understands everything. What do you think he'll feel if you pull something like this?" My dad barked, "You young people, no sense, no self-control. You want everything you can't have. If you want kids, why don't you make your own?" My mom got even angrier. "We've been living in your house all these years, getting called leeches behind our backs, swallowing humiliation while we waited on you two, and now you are trying to take the kids too. You two are disgusting. I don't have a daughter and son-in-law like you." My dad spat on the floor. "Fine. Let's go beg on the street before we stay in this house another day. Got a little money, and suddenly you think you are some kind of lord. Please." Those two old hypocrites just wanted a cushy life and a steady cash stream. They were just terrified I dumped three children on them for real. So now they put on a whole performance, crying, raging, dramatic exits. Like they were auditioning for an opera. My husband lowered himself, apologized, begged, offered money, reasoned with them, everything. Eventually, he got them to calm down. He paid an adoption fee, $100,000 per child. He handed over $300,000 total, and my parents agreed to let the kids call us Mom and Dad, while they'd be introduced as Grandpa and Grandma. That money, of course, went straight to me. My parents stared longingly at my account balance and said, "All fake sweetness, we're old. We don't need your money. You just don't trust us. Even if you gave it to us, when we die, wouldn't it all end up yours anyway?" I transferred each of them $20,000. Then they finally shut up. Just like that, all three of my siblings were legally under my name. And my husband, shockingly, actually did like kids. Once it was official, he spent even more freely on them. For appearances, he told outsiders, the three kids were his love children from affairs. And he told people I couldn't conceive. My parents and I were speechless. He dined out on it, in his social circle. Everyone praised him as a successful man, three illegitimate kids, all brought home, and his wife raising them with grace. Time flew. My relationship with David got deeper the more we met in secret. And I didn't have any more babies, I got surgery. At a certain point, it felt like if I had another one, I'd physically run out of hands. My husband, in these years, was also weirdly content. Peaceful household. Kids everywhere. The thing that cracked that happy bubble wasn't my husband, it was the investment banker's family coming back. Not the man himself. His parents. He'd been in a car crash, was now in a coma, basically vegetative. He'd been lying like that for over a year, and the chance of him waking up was slim. Meanwhile, ever since my husband had three kids, he posted them constantly, showed them off to everyone, and took them out to social events like trophies. Of course, my parents and I always went too. I didn't trust him alone with the kids, and honestly, none of us had anything better to do. My second boy looked exactly like that investment banker. That's how his parents noticed. His parents were big names in the finance world. They came to our house, carrying a paternity test report. The privacy leak was insane. It made me want to switch preschools immediately. The father said, "We're not here to cause trouble. But this child is our blood. Our only son is essentially gone. We want to acknowledge our grandson. If you agree, we'll meet any terms you name." My husband stared at the test, completely stunned. Then his gaze slid to my dad, then to my mom, then he shot me a look that was half suspicion, half panic. My mom snatched the report, glanced at it, and started wailing theatrically. Back then, he refused to marry me. Said I was too old, I'd embarrass him. Now the kid's grown and you want to come harvest the fruit. Dream on. The parents looked from my mom to me like their brains were short-circuiting. The mother's hands shook. "This child, isn't he Nina's?" My mom spat. "He's mine. All three are mine. My daughter and son-in-law couldn't have kids, so I gave them all over." My dad suddenly jumped up, furious. "You crazy woman, so you cheated on me? With some pretty boy?" My mom stood too, hands on hips. "I cheated, because you were useless. I let you be a father in your old age, and you don't even thank me. How dare you accuse me?" My dad's face turned red. He grabbed her hair and slapped her. My mom grabbed a cup and hurled it at him. Honestly, it was as entertaining as an action movie. Everyone in the room, besides my parents, just sat there, frozen, mouths open. After they finished, my parents calmly fixed their hair and clothes and sat on opposite sides. My dad looked like an enraged bull. My mom looked smug and started bragging about her romantic history. My husband pressed a hand to his forehead and muttered to me, "I never would have guessed." I kept thinking, wow, your dad is really something, having kids that late. Turns out, they're not even his. "So, do all your siblings have the same father?" I said anxiously, "I don't know. I don't know why she'd create a disaster this big." My husband chuckled. "This is good news. Better than them having some nobody of a father. In finance, those people are basically mountains. Your second brother just shot up to the sky. In the end, after 2 months of negotiations, we reached a deal. We'd co-parent my second boy together. I wasn't about to let them take him away. What if they were the kind of rich weirdos who treat children like spare organs for their aging bodies? The investment banker's parents bought the villa right next to ours. Then we all went to visit their son in the hospital, bringing the kids. The moment my mom stepped into the hospital room, she threw herself over the comatose man, and sobbed like her heart was breaking. She stroked his face. "My baby, why are you lying here, not talking to me? Come on, get up and look at Auntie. Didn't you love it when Auntie held you and sang to you?" Her tears dropped onto his face. "It's all my fault," she cried. "I wasn't brave enough. If I'd been willing to stay with you without a title, you wouldn't have crashed your car missing me. This is my sin." His parents were already drowning in grief. I fell into deep self-doubt. Was giving birth to my second boy some kind of hallucination? Was my affair with the investment banker a delusion? Was it actually my mother who had been sleeping with him? My second boy clung to the man too, wailing until he was hoarse. I'll give my kid credit, he was socially brilliant. He figured out the relationships fast and started charming everyone into a good mood. Even my oldest boy, and my little girl, ended up benefiting from it. Not long after that, my oldest boy's biological father, and even the father's parents, showed up too. The wealthy all live in the same invisible circle. The investment banker's parents had been showing off my second boy, and my oldest boy's photo got seen. So now his grandparents arrived with a paternity report as well. I'd already transferred schools, and somehow, the leak was still that bad. There was nowhere left to transfer, our school was already top tier. This time, my husband stared at my mom again, stunned, but we didn't get lucky. Because the underclassman, now a grown man, looked at me with a restrained, aching affection and said, "Nina, I never thought you still loved me enough to give me a son." I'd seen his social media too. He'd done a marriage alliance. Then divorced. And he already had a kid in that family. A situation like that. No way was I letting my son get pulled into it. My husband glared at me like he was ready to explode. I hurried to say, "It's a life, honey. We should be kind. Aren't you glad I had him? He calls you dad." My husband fell silent. Because blood or not, he poured money and time into that child. My husband recovered fast, and flipped the narrative like a professional. He said to the underclassman with a solemn, grateful expression, "Mr. Bennett, back then, I couldn't have children. So my wife borrowed your seed. As a couple, we're sincerely grateful." Every single person froze. Mr. Bennett threw a punch at my husband, furious. His parents were livid too, they felt their son had been played. But they also refused to let their bloodline stay outside. After a month of negotiations, everyone agreed to co-parent again. And of course, both sets of grandparents provided substantial compensation. I took it all. That's when I finally felt steady. Between what I'd secured for both boys, they were set for life. My husband didn't keep fighting with me either. He even played the virtuous one, sighing that he was child-free and I'd suffered. I said I had no choice back then. He laughed and said it was fine. Besides, he still needed those families. Their connections could elevate him. Living in our current neighborhood started feeling a little unsafe. So we moved to a gated hillside estate. My oldest and second boy often went to their grandparents' places to visit, usually all three kids together, to keep things fair. The only one who got left out was my youngest, my little girl. The older she got, the more mixed she looked, standing out against everyone around her. It broke my heart. When David came back to visit me again, I brought my daughter to see him. David held her and cried. He spent the whole day with her. My daughter was thrilled, seeing people who looked like her made her light up. David told me, "Nina, I love you. I don't care how long you need. I'll wait." Looking at his beautiful face, thinking about his strong body and that relentless energy. And then thinking about my husband, whose only real function was getting weaker by the year, I finally said it. "Wait for me. I'll get divorced, and then we'll be together openly." When my husband heard I wanted a divorce, tears filled his eyes. He pouted like a wronged child, voice trembling with outrage. "You heartless woman. You cheated on me and I didn't divorce you, now you want to divorce me. Are you even human?" He refused to sign. He couldn't perform anymore, had no interest in keeping a mistress, and in the end, he didn't really have kids of his own either. The only family joy he had came from my kids. He didn't love me or hate me much at this point, so he clung to the marriage and claimed the children needed a complete family. I also had to admit, he'd paid for our good life, for years. He had savings. I didn't want to scorch the earth. So instead, I persuaded him to divorce me quietly in secret, and keep living together the way we always had, still a family, just not on paper. He thought about it and agreed. I married David. David's parents came over the moon, hugging my little girl like she was treasure. My daughter was ecstatic too, she finally had a real set of grandparents. The investment banker eventually died. My second boy's grandparents adored him, like he was their own eyes. But the three kids still lived together, and everyone stayed happy. I was happy too. David was romantic, and devoted in a way I'd never experienced. All the joy I never got from my husband, I finally tasted with David. Life is only interesting when you live it with someone you actually love. My husband wasn't the biological father of any of them, but the kids were still close to him. Their world was full of laughter and affection. There was no need to burden them with adult mess. They only needed to know there were more people in the world who loved them. David was right, the kids were growing up, and I needed to restart my own life too. I was going to pick up my interests again, learn to draw properly, learn languages, try to go back to school. We all had a future worth looking forward to.